Welcome into Any Given Thursday by Chat Sports. Harrison Graham, Chase Sr. here to talk some NBA as the NBA trade deadline is just over a month away on February 10th. Before we get to some trade rumors, though, a bit of a surprising move here, Chase. The Milwaukee Bucks have decided to part ways with DeMarcus Cousins after 17 games with the team.
Yeah, and look, he came in for an injured Brook Lopez and was asked to occupy a lot of center minutes for the Milwaukee Bucks. And I thought replacing Brook Lopez, he actually played pretty well. Only 17 of those games, but in some of those moments, he was asked to do a lot, and he came through in some pretty clutch situations, had a couple of big games. Now, why was he released considering how well he played? I mean, the general manager for Milwaukee, as we're about to show you, heaped praise upon DeMarcus Cousins, but they wanted to clear a roster spot, and that's why he was let go. But given how he played, I do think DeMarcus Cousins is going to be able to land with another NBA team. More so in that journeyman role that he's been in over the last couple of years. Now with Milwaukee, last year hung on with the Clippers, kind of had that role as well with the Golden State Warriors. But if you need a beefy body down low, DeMarcus Cousins can be that. Is it going to be the athletic force that he was for about a decade long, where he was knocking down threes, a great modern-day big man? No. But he can occupy some bench minutes for a team that is looking to be a contender and get into the playoffs.
Yeah, this one surprises me a bit. Sure, Lopez could be coming back, and maybe they just figure, okay, his role goes away. But, I mean, the numbers have been pretty appealing for a guy who's getting like 16 minutes a game, 9 points.
Can shoot the three, too, a little bit.
6 rebounds. The field goal, the efficiency from Boogie hasn't been this good in a while, which is a bit of a surprise, that uptick. So I am a little bit surprised that this happened at this time. But good news for Boogie is that his stock, while it's never going to be super high at this point in his career, like, he's at least signable. Like, a team should, be willing to bring him in.
Yeah, no, I agree. And I'm looking at teams like the Golden State Warriors, who have Kevon Looney, James Wiseman once he comes back. You have Nemanja Bjelica in that front court as well. But depending on the matchup, you don't really have that big center who can hold it down on the low block and give you a defensive presence against another center who is somewhat physical. And we've seen the Warriors struggle in that regard. So I'm looking at a team like that and other contending teams that I think could have a little bit of an interest in DeMarcus Cousins. Look, again, not the player he once was, and it's really unfortunate that all the injuries did happen, but he can certainly help a playoff team. There's no doubt about that.
Yeah, I totally agree. And so we'll ask you guys this question: which team should sign Boogie Cousins? And I think there will be multiple suitors. Maybe the Lakers get in the mix as well on that front, although they've kind of gone to a more of a small ball traditional or untraditional lineup, if you will. Let us know what you guys think down in the comments section. If you guys want to go bet on some NBA games, MVP, most improved, rookie of the year, you can go bet on all of that stuff and a whole lot more. Go bet on the NFL playoffs, which are just around the corner. One place to do it, BetUS. Go to chatsports.com/bet. Use our promo code CHAT125. That is CHAT125. When you go to our URL below, that is chatsports.com/bet. Okay, let's talk Russell Westbrook. It obviously has not gone as well as things as the Lakers had planned since they traded for him. It's who could have seen that coming? The report from Amick of The Athletic said that the Lakers have shown some covert interest, that being the quote there, in trading Russ earlier this season. Nothing has materialized. It doesn't seem like it's going to, and I think it's pretty obvious why, Chase. The decline in production continues to be there. We already know he's a reckless player, especially when it matters the most, and most importantly, the contract's just bad.
The contract's bad considering who the player is, how he plays, and how he's going to age. I thought it was absolutely hilarious the other day when he didn't turn the basketball over for the first time in like 400 games, and people are praising Russell Westbrook for playing a clean slate and not turning the basketball over when Tyrese Maxey, a second-year player, has done that a handful of times this year alone. Look, the Lakers have made a handful of wrong decisions in the last calendar year pertaining to the point guard position. Prior to the NBA trade deadline, and at the deadline, they should have traded for Kyle Lowry. They did not because they didn't want to include Talen Horton-Tucker. That's a mistake. Secondly, with Russ directly involved, they were about to trade away KCP and Kyle Kuzma, maybe Montrezl Harrell, for Buddy Hield, and they ended up not. They pivoted last second to trade for Russell Westbrook, and the experiment has been a disaster. The statistics are never the problem with Russell Westbrook. It's the style in which he plays with, and that style is not conducive to winning or long-standing success. You look at the numbers, 19.5 points per game, 8+ rebounds, 8+ dimes, and you're like, look, he's averaging almost a triple-double. He's done that for a long time, but he doesn't play in a winning style, and that really just prohibits the team from being consistent offensively because he never has a great feel for the game late. He chucks up ill-advised shots at times. He's somewhat reckless with the basketball. And that's really the Russell Westbrook dilemma. Fantastic athlete, one of the best that we've ever seen in NBA history, but also a very maddening player who I think the style of the NBA has kind of passed him by the last couple of years.
Look, there's no way to get around it, Chase. They screwed the pooch on this one. I don't know if this was a GM LeBron move. I don't know if this was a Pelinka move. I don't really care. The bottom line is not only did they screw it up, they knew pretty quickly, like you suggested, but there's nothing you can do about it. Really, the only trade potentially out there that could happen would be doing the John Wall swap, because John Wall, like Russell Westbrook, doesn't have a lot of trade value with his contract. So, and hell, at this point, I'd be willing to try it if I was the Lakers, if you could get the Rockets on board just to simply get another ingredient in there with Anthony Davis and LeBron James, because, look, we said it when it happened. Is it entertaining? Yes. I said this at the time, if LeBron wins a championship with Russell Westbrook, it'll be the most impressive one he's ever had, because we know Russ cannot be a winning player. That has been proven ever since Kevin Durant left his side in OKC. So they screwed it up, and quite frankly, I don't view the Lakers as a championship contender with the way things are currently construed, especially with Russell Westbrook. So if he gets traded, if anyone else gets traded, this is the time to subscribe, because NBA Trade SZN is here. Don't miss any of it. It's a whole lot of fun. We just crossed 275,000 subscribers, by the way. The road to 300 is underway. Be a part of this movement. Hit that big red button. We will continue to crank up our NBA coverage here on the channel. Okay, let's talk about a guy who's been in the trade rumors, the headlines for months now. Ben Simmons. Is Sacramento the fit for him? Sam Amick also on this one saying that interest is growing from Sacramento's side, Chase.
If you're Philadelphia, you have to make a deal trading away Ben Simmons, because you have to maximize the prime years of Joel Embiid. Last month, he's been playing like an MVP. Nobody can dispute that. He's averaging more than 30 points per game, and he's doing things athletically that reminds you of a Giannis or an Anthony Davis, and he's really put the team on his back as the Sixers continue to climb up the Eastern Conference standings after what was a tough stretch of the season when he was on the COVID list and they had COVID and injury issues. So maximize the prime years of Joel Embiid and get him a co-star, because I think if you're able to do that, a 1A, 1B type of player, you can make a run in the wide-open Eastern Conference if you're Philly, because I think they have the necessary surrounding pieces for them to be a contender in the East. But if you don't trade away Ben Simmons and you rely on this roster as it stands right now, they're not good enough to compete with a Miami Heat, a Milwaukee Bucks, a Chicago Bulls, or a Brooklyn Nets. You need to move the needle just a bit. And Ben Simmons' value is higher than what people believe. It's not as high as it once was, so Daryl Morey isn't going to get that high-level all-star type of player back, but you can still get a very good player back for Ben Simmons, who is a really good defender. As for what Sam Amick had to say about the Kings' interest, it seemed as though a couple months they were out, now they're in. Amick saying this, quote, "While the Kings would prefer to keep building around De'Aaron Fox and Tyrese Halliburton, their strong appetite to improve means that no player is off the table in terms of potential talks. Wherever there's an impact player who can be had, in other words, they'll be exploring possibilities." And yes, as you likely wondered, that includes Philadelphia's Ben Simmons. While I reported in early September that a King-Simmons deal was looking very unlikely, that was long before team officials had a chance to see nearly half a season's worth of mostly subpar play. Sacramento's interest is definitely there. And if I'm Daryl Morey, I want to put myself in his shoes. You look at the Kings roster and you're like, okay, couple of pieces that can move the needle, couple of pieces who, if we brought in, could be building blocks alongside Joel Embiid, Seth Curry, Tobias Harris, and Tyrese Maxey. You get back De'Aaron Fox and Buddy Hield, I think that's a good package for Philadelphia, and I think it's a pretty solid package for Sacramento, because you have a player in Ben Simmons who's marketable, who you can build around, who does a lot of things at an elite level.
Yeah, I wonder if you're Philadelphia, if you would be able to get both. Maybe
yeah, that's my concern.
Maybe you would have to send back a Who's the defensive guy? I'm drawing a complete.
Matisse Thybulle.
Maybe you'd have to send Thybulle back. I'd still probably do that if I'm Philadelphia.
Right.
Fox and Hield for Thybulle and Simmons seems like a pretty fair deal. I will say this. It would feel like poetic justice if Simmons had to go to Sacramento, because who wants to go to Sacramento? If there's any Kings fans out there, hey, that's it's not really about the city itself. It's about the organization not being able to figure things out. But I feel like that would be pretty hilarious justice for Ben Simmons, who has kind of been a fraud during this entire process, if we're being completely honest. All right, predict it for us. We've got about 5 weeks until the trade deadline is here. Will Ben Simmons get traded before the NBA trade deadline? Type Y for yes. Type in for no. Let's hear it from you guys down in the comments section.